Stop it already. Huh? You don't have the right to say that. My husband, Ryan, barges into my office, messing up the room without any regard for the fact that I'm working. Why does it have to be like this? Are you serious? Ryan's face is dead serious. Even though I work from home, he criticizes me as if I'm just playing around. And it's not just Ryan. A woman like her isn't worth talking to. My mother-in-law, Grace, said. Yay, you're right about that. I can't believe she's this useless. Even bugs are more helpful, aren't they? Mom, that's an insult to bugs. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. This was my daily life, enduring such words. Even if I voiced my opinions, no one listened. They just vented their frustrations on me however they pleased. Then one day, as usual, I was in the middle of an important meeting at home when Ryan suddenly burst into my room. I didn't notice because I had my earbuds in at the time. Get ready for this. You're not even needed in this house. You're just a parasite. I'm in a meeting right now. My mother-in-law, Grace, followed in and began hurling insults at me too. As I turned to mute the camera and mic on my PC, my colleagues yelled, "Run!" I quickly turned around. Ryan was holding a bucket over his head and dumped its contents on me. At that moment, time felt like it slowed down for the first time in my life. Suddenly, my whole body burned as if it were on fire. The bucket was filled with boiling water. Guess we need to disinfect you more. It's still not enough. I knew I had to escape, so I tried to head to the bathroom. But Ryan grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. Where do you think you're going? He dragged me out of the room, pulling me along like I was a rag doll. He took me to the living room, where Grace poured more boiling water on me. How is it? Did that disinfect you a little? Who knows? You're quite a big bug to deal with. Someone unemployed like you should get out of this house. I clenched my fists and stood up. My head was so filled with anger that I didn't even feel the pain of the boiling water. Of course, I planned to. I told them that directly. Trash like you won't survive once you leave this house. At this moment, I flashed a sly smile. What are you laughing at? She's probably finally lost her mind, hasn't she? So I revealed my true self to the two of them. You're saying you're the CEO of a $20M company. Stop talking nonsense. She's definitely gone insane. Believe it or not. But the one who'll regret it is you. I had prepared for this moment in countless ways. I went back to my office and returned with divorce papers in hand. Here are the divorce papers. Satisfied? Are you serious? You're the ones who said it first. Ignoring their shouting, I left the house. A month later, Ryan and Grace showed up. This, too, was part of my plan. My name is Olivia. I work at a company I started with friends back in college. I majored in economics at university, but we decided to try something fun and launched an e-commerce site. We sell a variety of products, similar to a major competitor. To avoid getting lost in the crowd, we decided to push a unique concept to the forefront. Jessica, what's up? Jessica is one of the founding members. I've got a great idea. What if we focus on selling leftover stock instead? Let's be bold. I've already gotten approval from the other members. When I looked at the product lineup Jessica showed me, it was indeed filled with items that seemed hard to sell. But they had good designs, affordable prices, and a certain charm. I felt we might have a chance. That does sound interesting, right? Shall we give it a try? Let's do it. At the time, we treated this as just a fun project to work on until graduation. Some of the members had already secured full-time jobs. However, our e-commerce site began gaining attention on social media. And before we knew it, it was generating substantial profits. Since I hadn't secured a job elsewhere, I decided to continue running the business. By the way, Jessica, what are you going to do? I'm going to help Olivia. I don't have anything else I want to pursue. Then let's work hard together. Also, there's something I'd like to ask you. Her request took me by surprise. No, I can't do that. Wouldn't Jessica be better suited for it? Everyone else thinks you're the right choice, too. Again, making decisions without me. Sorry. So what do you think? I hesitated, but I was happy they trusted me so much. All right, but in exchange, Jessica, you'll have to work even harder as my partner. When I told my parents I would skip traditional employment and continue as the CEO, they didn't object and gave me their support. The business continued to grow steadily, and by the time I was 27, we took the company public. It was around that time that I met my husband, Ryan. The meeting took place at a small boutique I frequented. He was the owner of the shop, which had been passed down through generations. You're as lovely as ever. Thank you as always. Take your time browsing. I will. The shop's cozy atmosphere, along with its mix of domestic and imported products, appealed greatly to me. I began visiting regularly, and as I did, we started having more conversations. Apparently, Ryan used to work in an office. However, after his father passed away, the future of the shop was uncertain. Weren't you anxious about taking it over? Of course I was, but I grew up here, and with my mom's bad back, there was no one else to do it. I see. That said, business has been tough. Then Ryan shared something surprising. It's a boring story, but when I was taking over the shop, a so-called friend almost scammed me. Really, that's terrible. Yeah, he was the president of a real estate agency. If I'd gone along with him, I'd have lost the shop. Though he laughed while recounting it, I could sense the hardship he'd endured. Maybe that's part of the reason why I get this sense of disgust when I hear the word CEO. I'm a CEO myself, but maybe it's better not to mention that. By the way, Olivia, what kind of work do you do? Well, I guess I'm an engineer. Wow, that's impressive. It wasn't entirely a lie. In fact, I had helped my friends when setting up the e-commerce site and had gained some knowledge from it. At this point, there was no turning back. I kept visiting the shop and bought various items, hoping to contribute even a little. About 6 months after I started frequenting the store, Ryan invited me to hang out. Thanks to the many conversations we'd had, we already had a good relationship. I couldn't respond with an immediate yes. It wasn't because I didn't want to go. I understood that Ryan was serious. Is it a no? Seeing his slightly disappointed expression, I blurted out, I'll go. I didn't quite understand my actions at that moment. After a few dates, Ryan confessed his feelings to me. It was then that I fully realized I liked him too. 6 months later, I accepted his proposal and was invited to visit his in-laws' house. I'm really nervous. You'll be fine. My mom's kind. I just hope they accept me. As we exchanged these words, we arrived at the in-laws' house. Welcome. You must be Olivia, the one Ryan has been talking about. Yes, that's me. The conversation proceeded pleasantly. So, Olivia, what are your thoughts on living together? Living together? I don't particularly mind. I thought it might be something we'd face eventually. I see. That's good to hear. Grace's beaming smile from that moment stayed in my mind for quite a while. I had no idea at the time. I couldn't see the devilish side hidden behind Grace's smile. It was just 1 week after we got married. By the way, what about the new house? Oh, I've already decided on that. What? I hadn't heard anything about it. I couldn't even recall having such a discussion before. For now, let's go take a look. Wait, hold on. Ryan took me to none other than the in-laws' house we had visited recently. Wait, is this the place? Yay, starting today, this is where we'll live. Remember, Mom mentioned it before. I couldn't believe how foolish I had been. Grace's question back then wasn't about some future arrangement, it was about now. At this point, I couldn't suddenly say I didn't want this. I buried my hopes for a private newlywed life deep inside, and resolved to accept the situation. Besides, from my one encounter with Grace, she seemed kind enough, so I optimistically assumed it would be fine. Looking forward to living with you from today. Likewise, thank you for having me. Just remember one thing, Olivia, you're part of our family now. Yes, I understand. The next day, our moving boxes arrived, and I was given an empty room to use as my office. However, things began to change just a week later. Olivia, do you remember what I told you? That you're part of this family now. Yes, I remember that. Good, then, starting today, you'll be helping out around here. With that, Grace handed me a broom and a dustpan. Sorry, but I actually have work to do now. What? This is more important than that. She scolded me out of nowhere. What's more, she stayed and watched me the entire time to ensure I cleaned. Ryan was away at the shop, leaving me with no choice but to follow her instructions. Olivia, haven't you ever cleaned before? I have. Then move faster. It was as if she had completely transformed, barking orders at me nonstop. This was just the beginning. She even started asking me for money. Grace no longer worked. Remember, taking care of these things is also part of a wife's duties. As if that were true, but I couldn't say that to her face. Even I understood that much. From then on, things got worse. While I was out, she would raid the fridge and eat the food I'd bought. She even ordered expensive deliveries from high-end restaurants and made me pay for them. Naturally, I didn't even get to eat any of it. I need to talk to you about something. Of course, tell me anything. It's about Grace. I immediately noticed Ryan's expression darken. Is something wrong with my mom? How do I put this? She's been a bit harsh toward me, or rather, I tried to word it as delicately as possible. I see. Can you give me specific examples? I explained everything that had been happening. Ryan nodded as he listened, giving me hope that he would address it. But that night, during dinner with the three of us, Grace suddenly spoke. Olivia, you went and tattled to Ryan, didn't you? I glanced at Ryan. He, however, continued eating as if nothing had happened. You really shouldn't have done that. In my mind, I pleaded for Ryan to say something. With a small sigh, he finally spoke. Just so you know, Olivia, taking care of Mom is part of a wife's duties. His words were the complete opposite of what I had hoped for. Ryan is absolutely right. All you need to do is act for our benefit. Your opinions aren't needed, but that's just too much. It's only natural to respect Mom. If you can't even manage that, what good are you? He wasn't listening at all. This wasn't the man I had married. After finishing his meal, Ryan got up and returned to his room, leaving me alone with Grace. At this point, I was powerless to resist her. If this happens again, you'll go without dinner. Understood. I chose not to respond, but that only seemed to fuel her anger. Are you listening to me? She splashed water on me as I kept my head down. When I looked up, Grace was simply smiling. I stood and tried to head back to my workroom, but Grace stopped me. You've still got cleanup to do. That's your job, isn't it? I bit my lip hard and went back to clear the dishes. We're not monsters, you know. As long as you do what you're supposed to, everything will be fine. What nonsense. You're already more than monstrous enough. Do you have something to say? No, nothing. I finished the chores and headed to my workroom. It was the only place in the house where I could be alone without anyone interrupting me. I began thinking about the future. I didn't want to keep being used for their convenience in this house. I considered talking to my parents, but the memory of their happy faces at my wedding stopped me. I didn't want to make them sad. Besides, it hadn't even been 6 months since we got married. If I just did my part, I wouldn't be scolded anymore. I resolved to endure for now and find the right moment to bring up divorce. That was my plan. Looks like you're motivated today, Grace said. I realize I misunderstood things before. From now on, I'll work hard for this family. That's the spirit. When I almost flawlessly handled the household chores, it was strange how even Grace, who had been so critical, softened toward me. When she suddenly became kind, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of happiness. Before long, we even started going out together. Maybe I should have done this from the beginning. After that, the days passed more peacefully, except for Ryan. Ryan didn't seem pleased with how well Grace and I were getting along. Only then did I realize that he was quite the mama's boy. He decided to create some distance between Grace and me. Sorry, but I need you to mind the shop starting tomorrow. The shop? But I already have work to do at home. That's nothing important. You can bring your laptop if you need to. And what will you be doing? Isn't it obvious? I'm taking a break. I couldn't help but sigh. You'll do it, won't you? Honestly, I didn't mind the shop itself. Thinking positively, working in that cozy environment might not be so bad. Fine, but I can't do it every day. Sure, the shop is closed on Thursdays, so just handle it Monday through Wednesday. I agreed and started working at the shop. However, no customers came at all. There were even days when I stayed at the shop from morning to evening without seeing a single person. That's when I decided to try listing items on an online store. I also used social media to spread the word. Slowly but surely, sales began to increase. Sales have been going up lately, haven't they? Seems that way. Guess that proves I've got great taste, huh? Maybe so. Most of the items in the shop were sourced by Ryan. I had to admit that he had a good eye for products. However, products don't sell themselves. In reality, it was my efforts that made the difference. But I chose to keep that fact to myself. I figured he wouldn't acknowledge it anyway. Emboldened by his delusion, Ryan started to act even more recklessly. Hey, what's that? Oh, this? I wanted it for a long time, so I bought it. Cool, right? Ryan had purchased a luxury car without consulting me at all. You didn't even talk to me about it, as we argued. Grace returned from shopping and walked in on us. What are you two doing here? Ryan bought a car without asking anyone, and he spent almost all the shop's earnings on it. At this point, my relationship with Grace was on good terms, so she readily believed me. What were you thinking? You don't need something like this. She began scolding Ryan. He couldn't muster the courage to argue back, and was left stumbling over excuses. Don't meddle in my business. It would have come out eventually, whether I told her or not. Better now than later. Damn it. To be honest, with my income included, we weren't in financial trouble. But if things continued like this, disaster was inevitable. If it were just Ryan, I wouldn't care as much, but I didn't want Grace to suffer because of his actions. That's when I decided to reduce the shop's reported revenue. If there wasn't money available, Ryan couldn't squander it. The plan worked. Since I had been in charge of managing the online store's sales and bookkeeping, Ryan had no way of knowing the actual figures, except for what I reported to him. So, how's the revenue this month looking? It seemed Ryan hadn't learned his lesson. This month's earnings are about this much. That's it. Isn't that kind of low? That's the tricky part about business, isn't it? Yeah, I guess so. A few months passed as I continued adjusting the sales figures. Then, one night, Ryan said something completely outrageous. "You've been fidging the sales, haven't you?" "What? I haven't done anything like that. It's strange that the sales suddenly dropped every month. Are you embezzling? Do you have any proof of that? It's when you were doing the shop shifts. The sales dropped out of nowhere. Even so, that doesn't mean I'm manipulating the sales. Are you two fighting again? He's been stealing the shop's money and putting it in his own pocket." "Olivia, I haven't done anything like that." Neither of us backed down, and the argument continued for a while. That day ended with Grace intervening, but 2 days later, things took an unexpected turn. "I knew it. You've been taking the shop's money." "Not this again. I told you I haven't done anything." "Then what is this?" Ryan was holding an envelope. Inside were stacks of cash. "This was found in your office. You thought you hid it well, but too bad. Now you see, right, Mom? With this much evidence, it seems there's no choice but to admit it." "Wait, please. I didn't do anything. Please believe me. You're pathetic. Just admit your guilt already." I'd been set up. I never imagined they would go this far. Looking at Grace, it seemed like she completely believed Ryan. How disappointing. I thought we were getting along. "Grace, really, I didn't." Enough. In that moment, I felt everything I'd built crumble. Another hellish period began. Banned from going to the shop. I was forced to do all the household chores, as if I were imprisoned. Of course, there were the usual chores, but I was also frequently woken up in the middle of the night to run errands. "Hey, what's with this disgusting food? Are you kidding me?" Even in situations where Grace would normally step in, she ignored it all. It's kind of sad to bully her like that. But don't you think it's better to make her realize her place? "Olivia." "Yes." Then Grace took the food in front of her and threw it in the nearby trash can. "What are you doing? I thought it tasted awful. So make it again. Right now." "Of course. What you did was steal. So this won't even be a punishment. Even if I make it again, it might still taste bad. How about we go eat somewhere?" "Fine. So you handle the rest." The two of them went out to eat. Left alone at home, I realized that living with these people was impossible. I quickly finished cleaning up and locked myself in my room. I closed the online store I had worked hard on to contribute to the sales. This would definitely come back to haunt me. Before I started working at the shop, the sales were practically non-existent anyway. By the time I realized this, I knew I wouldn't be living in this house much longer. I also used the time during shopping to get the divorce papers. I planned to present them at the perfect moment. It was while I was working as usual, when Ryan came into the room and started rummaging through shelves and drawers, as if looking for more money I might be hiding. "Stop doing this already." "What? You have no right to tell me that." "Why is that? Are you serious?" Ryan's face was serious. He couldn't back down now, since he had lied himself. Even when I was working at home, he criticized me as if I was just playing around. And it wasn't just Ryan. Talking to a woman like that is useless. "Oh, right. I didn't know you were this useless. A bug might be more helpful." "Mom, that's disrespectful to the bugs, too." "Sorry, I couldn't hold it in." Every day felt like I was enduring that kind of treatment. Even when I voiced my opinions, they wouldn't listen and would just throw their frustrations at me however they wanted. One day, as I was having an important meeting at home as usual, Ryan suddenly entered the room. However, because I was wearing headphones, I didn't notice him at first. "Get ready. You're not needed in this house. You're screaming like a maniac. We're in a meeting right now." Grace, who had come in behind him, started yelling at me too. As I turned to my PC to stop the camera, my colleagues from the meeting shouted, "Run!" Surprised, I turned around. Ryan was holding a bucket above his head, and he dumped its contents on me. At that moment, everything felt like it was in slow motion for the first time in my life. Then my whole body suddenly became unbearably hot. Eck, the bucket's contents were boiling water. "You need a better disinfection. You're still not clean enough." Thinking this was bad, I tried to head for the bathroom. But Ryan grabbed my arm and wouldn't let me escape. "Where do you think you're going?" He yanked me, dragging me out of the room and into the living room, where Grace poured more boiling water on me. "How's that? Did it disinfect you a bit?" "Who knows? It's a pretty big bug. Someone like you, an unemployed person, should just leave this house." My fists clenched, and I stood up. My mind was filled with rage, and I didn't even feel the heat of the boiling water anymore. "I'm planning to leave, of course." I said that to the two of them. "You're not going to survive out there, you useless trash." At that, I gave a sly smile. "What are you laughing at? Seems like you've finally gone insane, huh?" So I revealed my true self to the two of them. "You're the CEO of a $20M business. Stop talking nonsense. Guess you've really lost your mind. You don't have to believe me, but you'll be the one regretting it." I had prepared for a day like this. I went to my office, grabbed the divorce papers, and came back. "Here, the divorce papers. This should be fine, right? Are you serious? You started this first." Ignoring their yelling, I left the house. I headed to my parents' home. When I arrived at the entrance, I stopped before opening the door. I never wanted to come here like this. Then I was called from behind. I turned around and saw Mom standing there. "Olivia." "What happened, Mom?" Sensing something was wrong, Mom gently guided me inside. "How's it? Tasty, right? Yay, your coffee is always the best, Mom. So what brings you here at this hour?" Well, I explained everything that had happened up until now. Normally quiet, Mom was furious this time. "What is that? Unbelievable. But I've made some preparations for this." "Really? Yay." We waited for Dad to come home, and I told him everything that had happened. Dad immediately wanted to go over there, but I stopped him. "Why are you stopping me? Our precious daughter has been treated like this. Just calm down. They'll come to us eventually." "What do you mean?" "Just wait for that day. You'll see." That night, I received a call from Jessica. "Are you okay?" Everyone was in a panic after that. "Sorry, there's been a lot going on since then." "Are you okay now?" "For now, yeah. I'm back at my parents' home." "So about today." "Sorry, I know it was an important meeting." That's when I remembered something important. "Jessica, you always recorded the meetings to take notes, right?" "Yay, today's meeting was recorded just like usual." "Oh, wait a minute. Did you realize it too, Jessica?" "Yay. Can you send it to me later?" "Okay." I managed to get the strongest evidence in an unexpected place. That night, I finally got some much-needed rest. A month later, Ryan and Grace show up. "Please, help us, Olivia." "Well, I've been waiting for you." You're probably broke, right? You're the CEO, aren't you?" "We're still supposed to be married. If this goes on, we'll have to give up the store." "But that doesn't concern me at all. You know about that divorce paper you gave me." "Oh, did you write it and bring it with you?" Ryan took the folded divorce papers out of his pocket. "Can you just hand it over?" "This is pointless," he said, then ripped it up in front of me. "The only one who's being pointless is you. Now you get it, right? Come back. Give up, and let's live together again. Please." Say that after you've woken up, I had a secret weapon to push the two of them further into hell. Stop arguing and come back. That's impossible. I think you'll understand after seeing this. I showed them the recorded meeting footage. It clearly captured the moment they poured boiling water on me. Now you get it, don't you? When did you get this? You'll never understand, will you? What? This is clear evidence of domestic violence. And I was planning to go to the police. Would you like to come with me, Ryan? What are we going to do? Wait a minute, I'm thinking. It seemed like the two of them were about to start arguing at any moment. Then Dad came from the back. Olivia. Dad, I just wanted to say one thing. You need to pay back for bullying Olivia. Ryan and Grace looked terrified when they saw Dad. Maybe we should just give up. We can't back down here. I think it would be best to do as Grace says. Now, what should we do with these two? Dad was fully ready for action. This is getting tedious. Maybe I should just call the police. I took out my smartphone. Seeing that, the two of them ran off in a panic, but it didn't matter where they ran. How stupid. There's no place for them to hide. It was just getting interesting. If Dad makes a move, we'll end up needing the police ourselves. Dad and I exchanged smiles. Now it was time for the final touch. First, I took the evidence to the police. It seemed like an investigation would start based on the video evidence. But that wasn't all. I also went to a law firm to file for divorce. Jessica, thanks again for everything. You really helped me. Of course, I just did what I had to. Olivia is an important friend, and the CEO of our company. Isn't the latter more important? Maybe. Afterwards, Ryan and I were officially divorced. He wasn't arrested for the domestic violence, but was fined. I also decided to claim compensation in the divorce court based on everything that had happened since we got married. For me, making him suffer through money was the best way to send him to hell. After that, I went to a certain place. Long time no see. Olivia. What are you doing here? You put this shop up for sale, right? You can't even pay for the compensation from the divorce trial. I heard you had some debts too. How did you find that out? I had hired a lawyer to look into Ryan's affairs. It turned out that he had been taking out regular loans to cover his living expenses. Moreover, Grace didn't know about this at all. This shop isn't yours anymore. What do you mean? Did you forget who I am? What you mean? Exactly. This shop is mine from today. I'll make good use of it. You should just go back to your mommy since you're in the way. She will probably comfort you, I guess. I left Ryan collapsed on the floor and walked out. Afterwards, I renovated the shop I bought and turned it into a new business. Of course, the sales were going well. We still have a long way to go, and we'll continue to grow.
Nancy, we have a celebration for your discharge. A celebration? You'll see when we get home. 6 months ago, I fell ill and had to be hospitalized. It was a tough time with multiple surgeries, but finally, today, I was able to be discharged. My husband, Sam, came to pick me up in the car, and on the way home, he mentioned that he had a surprise for me. Hearing that, I felt a surge of excitement and anticipation. When we arrived home, I couldn't believe what I saw. What? What is this? What's going on? I couldn't help but shout in surprise. Our home had been expanded, and I hadn't been told anything about it. While I was in shock, Sam spoke with a cheerful smile. Nancy, I know you can't do housework right now, but Maria said she'd move in to help us, so you don't need to worry. What? How did this happen? My name is Nancy, 42 years old. In my late 30s, I attended a party. I thought I might never get married. That was until Please go out with me on the premise of marriage. Are you sure about me? I'd be delighted. I met Sam at that party. We hit it off immediately, started dating, and eventually got married. I hope we can build a happy family together. It would be nice to have kids. Yeah, but even if we don't have kids, I'll be happy as long as we're together. Yes, you're right. Those conversations, filled with smiles, made me truly happy. Sam's parents had already passed away, and before our marriage, he lived with his older sister, Maria. Maria was a workaholic and unmarried, so when Sam and I got married and moved into a new house, she continued to live alone. Occasionally, the three of us would have meals together. Isn't this dish too salty? You should make it milder. Really? I'm sorry. Maria had a straightforward personality, and I found it hard to get along with her. I always worried that Maria might criticize me again. Aside from that, my life with Sam was going well and I was enjoying it. I thought these peaceful days would continue forever. But things started to change gradually from the day of the annual health check at work. I had never had any issues before, so I thought it would be the same this time. But this time was different. There is something concerning. You should get it checked at a major hospital. You're kidding, right? I feel so healthy. This can't be true. I understand it's hard to believe, but the data shows something unusual. No way! I couldn't believe it. But what if it's serious? Filled with anxiety, I decided to talk to Sam. Today was the health check at work, and they said there's something concerning in the results. What? Are you okay? I don't know. They said I should get checked at a major hospital. What should I do? Yeah, you should. Your health is the most important thing. You should get it checked, just in case. You're right. I'll do that. After discussing with Sam, I decided to go to a major hospital. There, I underwent a detailed examination, and the doctor told me, the test results show that you have a serious condition. Surgery is necessary. What? Is there any chance I can recover with surgery? We will do our best. I see. How long will the treatment take? You will need multiple surgeries. If all goes well, you should be able to go home in about 6 months. 6 months? After that, will I be able to return to work? That shouldn't be a problem. I understand. Then. And so, I was admitted to the hospital for treatment of my illness. 6 months. Will everything really be okay? Can I recover fully? These worries kept floating around in my head, but I knew I had to tell Sam, so I called him. Hello? Sam? I had a checkup at the hospital today, and they found an illness. They said I need surgery. What? Will you be okay? They said that with a few surgeries, I could be discharged in about 6 months if everything goes well. Oh, I see. I'm glad it can be cured. It must be tough, but hang in there. I'm looking forward to you getting better soon. Thanks, Sam. I was worried that it would be hard for Sam if I was hospitalized. But I was relieved because Sam naturally cared about my health and encouraged me. The company also told me to focus on my treatment now, so I could take a leave of absence with peace of mind. However, I realized something. I was so preoccupied with the house, work, and my health that I forgot I needed a change of clothes and laundry. Realizing this, I called Sam again. Sam? I'm sorry to bother you while you're busy. Can you bring my change of clothes to the hospital? And could you take the laundry back home? What? Why me? I don't want to. Hospitals are dirty. Viruses are flying around. If I go there, I'll get sick. But I need a change of clothes, and the laundry is piling up. Please. No means no. I'm busy, so I'm hanging up. Wait. He said, hanging up abruptly. I wish he could help at least at times like this. Thinking that, I spent my days in the hospital. I couldn't get Sam's cooperation, but he... Hello? It's not a big deal, but where are the nail clippers? And where's the TV remote? He often called about trivial things like this. A few weeks into my hospital stay. Hello. Maria, thank you for coming. You must be busy with work, right? I had some time. So, how are you doing? Sorry for worrying you. I'm doing all right. I feel bad since Maria must be busy with work too. While having this thought, Maria told me the recent events happening. As we talked, the topic naturally shifted to Sam. By the way, about Sam. What about Sam? Since you got hospitalized, Sam has been staying at my place or waiting for me outside my office. It's troublesome. Really? I can't do anything about Sam because I'm in the hospital. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Does Sam come to visit you sometimes? You need a change of clothes and laundry, right? Sam doesn't like coming to the hospital, so he doesn't come at all. What? What a useless guy. Then I'll do it for you. What? That's too much to ask. Don't worry about it. Leave it to me. Thank you. After that, Sam still didn't come to visit, and he continued calling about trivial matters. Maria came occasionally and helped with my change of clothes and laundry, as she said she would. I was very grateful. But I also felt very sorry for troubling her. My treatment progressed smoothly, and 6 months later. You can be discharged now. Really? Thank you. I was able to be discharged safely, so I called Sam. Sam came to pick me up by car, and we went home together. By the way, Nancy, we have a celebration for your discharge. What? A celebration? What is it? You'll see when we get home. What? Is it a surprise? Yes, it is. I can't wait to see what it is. Finally, I was relieved to be discharged from the hospital, but I never expected Sam to say something like that. Still, I was so happy and excited. Looking out the car window, I saw the trees lining the street turning golden. Right, I've been in the hospital for half a year. I felt like I'd been left behind by the world, but Sam, who was driving next to me, didn't seem to notice my feelings and kept talking about a new brand of instant noodles. As I enjoyed the long-awaited conversation with Sam, we arrived home before we knew it, but... What? What is this? What's going on? The moment we arrived home, I couldn't help but shout in surprise. As I stood there in shock, Sam smiled and spoke up. How is it? It's nicely extended, right? And since you can't do housework right now, Maria said she'd move in to help, so don't worry. What? What do you mean? You've just recovered, and it wouldn't be good if you pushed yourself and got sick again, right? I thought having someone around to help with chores would make your life easier and more comfortable. I appreciate the thought. I do, but this is different. It's okay. Maria must be lonely living by herself every day, too. I made this decision with both of you in mind. What? How could you make such an important decision on your own? You should have told me. Why? It's fine, isn't it? Anyway, let's go inside. Come on, hurry. Wait, Sam, don't pull me. Still not convinced, I was pulled into the house by Sam. The sight that greeted me inside left me speechless. Despite the recent renovation, the house was filled with trash, with no place to step. I was stunned, but Sam calmly spoke. "It's a mess now, but Nancy, you should just rest. Maria will come to clean tomorrow." Sam said this, but there was no way I could accept it. "Sam, why do you do such things without asking?" "What?" "The renovation, living with Maria. You can't make such important decisions without discussing them." "Why not?" "It's fine." "No, it's not." "Does Maria know about this?" "Yeah, she knows." What are these two thinking? I need to contact Maria. I'm going to call Maria right now. You don't have to do that. Sam, be quiet. I angrily contacted Maria. Hello? Nancy, what's wrong? It's not what's wrong. You and Sam decided on living together without consulting me. That's terrible. What? Who's moving in? It can only be you, Maria. What? I don't know anything about that. But Sam said we'd renovate the house and you'd move in. I need to hear about this. Can you come over? Okay. Maria hung up and agreed to come over. Several minutes later, Maria arrived at my house. Sorry to keep you waiting. So, what's this about me moving in? Sam said I couldn't do housework, so he renovated the house and decided you'd move in. Wait a minute. I really don't know anything about moving in. What? I was angry and told Maria the situation, but something seemed off. From Maria's reaction, it really looked like this was the first she'd heard of it. Maria, you didn't know about the renovation or moving in? No, I didn't. Sam, explain what's going on. I want to know, too. Sam, what's going on? The story didn't add up and seemed strange. I told Maria that Nancy can't do housework, so she should help out, right? Yes, I did say I would help out while Nancy can't do the housework. Right? So Maria should be living with us to help out, but she's not here, and the house is a mess. I said I would help, but I didn't say I would move in. Huh? But if you don't live here, you can't help with daily chores. Doesn't helping mean you can move in? Listening to this, I understood the situation. Sam thought that helping meant moving in together. Sam, are you kidding? What? Maria, why are you angry? I never said I would move in. I can come over and help occasionally without living here. You're assuming too much. That's not. And you should stop relying on Nancy and me all the time and learn to do things yourself. That's impossible. It's not impossible. Stop being so dependent. And I have a job too, so I can't come every day. No way. Also, while it's fine to ensure Nancy doesn't overdo it, don't just assume she can't do any housework. That's insulting to her. Sorry. You both have jobs too, right? I can help within reason, but don't take it for granted that Nancy and I will do everything. Understand? Understood. I always felt uncomfortable around Maria, but hearing her speak so clearly to Sam, I felt a sudden closeness with her. Maria, thank you. I understand the situation, and I feel much better hearing that. Really? Nancy, I'm sorry. But we need to do something about this mess. We need to clean up. Yes, we do need to clean. I'll do it, so Nancy, you can rest. I'll help too. Really? Okay. But don't overdo it, you just got out of the hospital. I understand. Thank you. So, with Maria's help, we started cleaning up. As I picked up the scattered trash at my feet, I found receipts from nightclubs and high-end steakhouses. Why are these here? I decided to ask Sam about it. Hey, Sam, can I ask you about these? The receipts from the nightclub and high-end steakhouse. What's going on? Oh, those. I went to the nightclub with my colleagues from work and ate steak with the staff. What? Are you serious? I can't believe it. While I was in the hospital, you were out having fun with other women and didn't even visit me? That's unforgivable. And something doesn't feel right. The money. Where did it come from? Sam's savings alone wouldn't be enough for such extravagant outings. Hey, where did the money come from? Sam, your savings wouldn't be enough, right? I took it out from Nancy's savings. What? And I sold some jewelry and bags to get money. I can't believe he sold my things while I was gone. Even as I stood there stunned, Sam continued talking without noticing my reaction. Nancy had quite a few accessories and bags she wasn't using. Selling them made quite a bit of money. What? Are you kidding me? What? Why are you angry? Feeling uneasy, I checked the places where I usually kept my accessories and bags. How much did you sell? Not just my accessories and bags, but even my parents' and grandparents' heirlooms are gone. I sold all of that too. No way. I sold a lot of things, but Nancy's personal belongings weren't worth as much as our grandparents' keepsakes. Luckily, those sold for a good price. How could he be so insensitive, selling other people's things without guilt and calling it lucky? What kind of person thinks like this? As I was lost in disbelief, Maria, who had been watching the scene, spoke up. Sam, you really need to stop this nonsense. Huh? Maria, why are you angry? It's not just Maria who's angry. Nancy too? What's going on with you too? Even though Maria and I were furious with Sam, he seemed clueless about why we were upset. It was truly exasperating. Taking my cherished belongings and selling them without permission is the lowest thing you could do. I can't believe I have a brother like this. It's disgraceful. Huh? You don't need to get that angry. I'm done talking. There's no point in continuing this. Nancy, come to my house. Really? Are you sure? Of course. It's better this way. Thank you. I'll do that. If you're going to Maria's, then I'm going too. Not you, Sam. Absolutely don't follow us. Why? Don't say that. Sam kept shouting, but I decided not to respond as it was pointless to continue the conversation. And so, I went to Maria's house. After arriving at Maria's house, I contacted Sam again. Thinking back, from the beginning of our marriage, he never helped with the housework, relying on me for everything. Even when I was hospitalized. In the end, he went so far as to take my money and important things. I realized I couldn't stay with someone like him any longer and decided to tell him clearly. I'm divorcing you, Sam. Why? I thought it would be good for both of us. I mean, think about it. Maria would be lonely living alone in the future. Nancy, you still need to take care of your health. We don't even have kids. I haven't done anything wrong. You still say such things. It's really unbelievable, I said, and hanging up the phone. A few days later, Sam came to Maria's house. What are you doing here? What do you want? Nancy, I was wrong. Please forgive me. What? Why are you apologizing all of a sudden? When I left, He didn't show any sign of admitting his fault. So why was he suddenly acknowledging it now? I told my coworkers about Nancy asking for a divorce. They asked why, and when I explained, they said it was only natural. Of course, they did. It wasn't just one person, everyone said the same thing. That's when I realized I was wrong. So, I'm sorry. Nancy, I was wrong. Please forgive me. He couldn't realize it until everyone told him. The more I listened, the more exasperated I became. There was no way I could start over with someone like this. I'm sorry, but I have no intention of getting back with you, Sam. I've already consulted a lawyer about the divorce, compensation, and repayment of the money. From now on, please contact me through my lawyer. Wait. When I said this, Sam seemed too shocked to respond. Then Maria appeared and said, "Just so you know, Sam, I don't want to deal with you either. Don't rely on me." Maria, why? Help me out. If I help you, you'll never become independent. And I don't want my things sold without permission. I wouldn't do that. How can I believe that? You've been taking advantage of the family. Just leave. Maria said, closing the door, shutting Sam out. With the help of my lawyer, the divorce was finalized without issue. The items Sam sold and the money he used were returned or repaid. After the divorce, Sam's reasons became known, and his co-workers started distancing themselves from him. Still unable to do housework, Sam's place became a mess. And it was rumored among neighbors as a garbage-filled house. Maria and I still kept in touch. And one day, she had some happy news to share. Actually, there's someone at work I get along with very well. We're planning to get married. I'm going to sell my house and move to his hometown. Really? That's surprising, but congratulations. Thank you. Nancy, take care of yourself and stay well. A few days later, Maria moved as planned. I also resumed work and requested a transfer. I wanted a fresh start too. Now, I'm enjoying living alone freely. Being betrayed by Sam was truly heartbreaking. But dwelling on the past won't change anything. Maria has found happiness and started a new life. I need to follow her example. I will definitely find happiness too. I vowed to myself. And I took a new step forward. Determined to face the future. Your husband is in critical condition. Please come to the scene immediately. What? A man identifying himself as a police officer blurted out unexpected words, startling me. I wondered who could be calling on a Sunday morning, and when I picked up, this is what I heard. I felt as if I were having a bad dream. What do you mean by that? I asked, my mind reeling, trying to understand what had happened to my husband, Brandon. You will understand if you come. Just come to the Sunset Harbor Apartments right now. The police hurriedly provided the location, which seemed to be an apartment complex. I jotted down the address, not comprehending anything. The call ended there, and I couldn't ask half of what I wanted to know. What should I do? I was scared to go alone. Thinking this, I decided to call nearby relatives and head to the scene together. My name is Melissa. I am 35 years old and a primary school teacher. Currently, I live with my husband Brandon, and we live close to both my parents' home and my in-laws' house. We were classmates in middle school. So, both our parents are nearby. Brandon and I reconnected 5 years ago at our middle school reunion. It had been 15 years since graduation, and the reunion itself was our first in 10 years. The hotel buffet where the event was held was attended by less than half our grade, which surprised me as I expected fewer people. In our 30s, we talked enthusiastically about work, marriage, and children. It struck me that many people were already married, which made me feel a bit uncomfortable. At that time, I was engrossed in my work, without a boyfriend who might become a marriage partner, feeling lonely. "Hey, is that you, Melissa?" Just as I was getting tired of listening to my friends' happy family stories, someone tapped my shoulder and spoke to me. It was Brandon, who is now my husband. "Yeah. Brandon, it's been a while." Brandon had been the student council president in middle school, and I was the secretary. So, I should have had more interaction with him than with other boys, but our relationship ended when we went to different high schools after graduation. "Long time no see. Would you like to have a drink over there?" Brandon, who always seemed smart, still talked the same way and didn't hesitate to invite me out. Sure. I left my friends, overwhelmed by Brandon's momentum, but felt relieved inside. I had been tired of listening to their happy episodes. When it was just the two of us, Brandon talked fluently about our middle school memories and how he was training at another restaurant to take over his parents' restaurant. Following his lead, I shared my experiences as a primary school teacher. Brandon listened intently, and I felt fulfilled for the first time in a while. "Thanks for today. Let's meet again." "Thank you too." "Yes, I'd love to meet again." I nodded to his invitation with surprising ease. The reunion, which I thought would be uneventful, led me to reconnect with a former classmate, Brandon. After that, we went on several dates, having meals and watching movies together. I worked at a local primary school, and Brandon worked at a restaurant near his parents' home, so meeting was never an issue. It was more surprising to me that a classmate lived so close by. After dating him for a while, he confessed his feelings to me, and we became a couple. Even after we started dating, our frequency of meeting didn't change. However, since Brandon works in the service industry, he can't always get weekends off, which sometimes made me a bit dissatisfied. But I thought, as an adult relationship, this much should be tolerated. "Melissa, I'm sorry for making you wait. Let's get married." Brandon proposed to me on my 32nd birthday, 2 years after we started dating. Yes, of course. Thank you. I thought if I were to marry, it had to be Brandon, so I accepted his proposal. That night, we fell asleep feeling extremely happy. When it came to marrying him, I first went to greet my parents. My parents are always gentle and basically accept anyone. So when he came to our house as my fiancé, "If it's someone as kind as Brandon, we're all for it," they responded happily. Brandon was so relieved by their positive reaction that he drank a lot that night. Next, it was my turn to meet Brandon's parents. I heard they run a restaurant, so I was very nervous. At Brandon's family's restaurant, they reserved a private room for us that day. When we were shown to the room, I couldn't help but let out a sigh of admiration. "Brandon is going to take over this restaurant. Are you okay with that?" Brandon's mom, Emma, asked me, elegantly placing her hand on her cheek. "Yes. I have heard about the family business many times. I understand that eventually, he will take over, and I would like to help him." I replied nervously with formal words. Then we are reassured. "Brandon and Melissa, do your best." Brandon's dad, Eric, who seemed intimidating at first, turned out to be kind, which made me feel relieved. Wasn't it nerve-wracking? That night, Brandon asked me softly while kissing me. "Yes. But your parents seem kind." "Do they?" "They're always strict with me. They were just hiding their true selves today," Brandon said, shrugging and making it sound like a joke. With Brandon's parents' approval, I thought it might be nice to work together at the restaurant when Brandon takes over. With both sets of parents' approval, our married life began. At first, our marriage went smoothly without any major problems. Since we both worked, we split the housework equally, and if we had a day off together, we would go out. He was always busy, but he never forgot to care for me. "Thanks for working hard every day," saying. I felt very fortunate to be married to him. However, as our marriage continued, I began to notice a change in his attitude. The catalyst seemed to be when I was told at the hospital that I had difficulty conceiving. We couldn't have children, so we decided to get tested at the hospital. The result was that Brandon had no issues, but I did. "It's unfortunate, but it can't be helped." "Brandon, I'm sorry." "Melissa, it's not your fault. This is something decided by God." He gently comforted me, rubbing my back as I was feeling down. However, contrary to his words, it seemed that Brandon was feeling a sense of disappointment towards me. After that, once it became clear that I couldn't have children, he stopped seeking me out altogether. In fact, I felt that his attitude had become distant. The chores that we used to share equally were. "I've been really busy lately. Dad and Mom are always telling me to spend my days off training at the family business. They keep reminding me that I'm the only successor, and I need to grow enough to be able to entrust others with the business." With these words, he stopped helping with any of the household chores. The phrase, "You don't have a successor," didn't seem like something Emma and Eric would say. Emma and Eric, despite their stern appearance, had always treated me kindly. "Thank you for marrying Brandon." Always grateful for that. So, Brandon's words seemed like a bitter jab directed at me because I couldn't have children. "I understand. But when things settle down, could you help out a little? I'm struggling to manage both work and the household chores. My body is really feeling the strain." This was the truth. Even though it's an elementary school, teaching involves a lot of work and navigating complex human relationships. When I got home, I was still faced with a mountain of chores, and I was becoming increasingly exhausted. "Sure, once things calm down." He said this to placate me, but he never once helped with the chores afterward. From that point on, his behavior grew stranger by the day. Not only did he refuse to help with the chores, but he also started criticizing my cooking and ironing. "This soup is too spicy. You need to make it milder so the flavors of the ingredients come through. The wrinkles in my shirt aren't out. Are you slacking off? Hey, I found hair on the bedroom floor. Can't you at least keep it clean?" It seemed like he wanted to find fault with everything I did around the house. He was especially critical of my cooking. Growing up with gourmet food had made him very particular about taste. His detailed critiques of my ironing and cleaning felt like an attack on my very existence. "If you're going to be that picky, why don't you do everything yourself?" he retorted angrily. "What? I keep telling you I'm exhausted from work every day. Plus, Dad and Mom are always putting pressure on me. It's just too much." He angrily raked his fingers through his hair and, clearly stressed out, hurled the TV remote onto the floor. "What are you doing?" I was genuinely shocked. He had never acted out physically like this before, even though he often complained verbally. I began to doubt my choices, wondering if this was his true nature coming to light. "It's all your fault that I'm like this. Because you can't have children, Dad and Mom are constantly pressuring me." Brandon hurled heartless words at me with an irritated expression. This left me more shocked than angry, and I ended up bedridden for several days. While I was in bed, even on his days off from work at the restaurant. "I have to train at the family restaurant," he said, and he was gone all day. Brandon would never have neglected me when I was sick before. His sudden change left me with nothing but tears. One time, he surprised me by coming home in the morning. I was training until late at night and I'm exhausted, he said, collapsing into bed as soon as he got home. I couldn't help but notice the faint scent of shampoo. Was it really training last night? I asked, unable to hide my curiosity. What? Are you doubting me? He glared at me, making me shake my head instinctively. No matter how I looked at it, his recent late returns were strange. But as the expected heir to the family restaurant, I had no choice but to accept his nightly training excuse. I spent my days at work and doing household chores, mulling over my suspicions. Then one day, while I was grocery shopping after work, I ran into Emma at the supermarket. "Oh, Melissa. What a coincidence to see you here." "Hello." Emma smiled brightly at me. Then, as if remembering something, she clapped her hands. "Melissa, I've been having trouble because he hasn't been coming over lately." "Is he busy?" "I've asked him several times to come when he has time because I have things to teach him," Emma said, looking troubled. I was surprised by her words. "What?" "He leaves home every time his work is off, saying he's going to train at the family restaurant. He comes back late at night or even in the morning, always saying how tough the training was." Emma tilted her head at my words. I realized that our conversation wasn't adding up. "What do you mean by that?" Emma's gentle eyes flashed sharply. I might have stumbled upon something significant. "I don't really understand it myself." "He isn't going to the restaurant?" "That means he's been lying to me and staying out late." A chill ran down my spine. Brandon often complained about being pressured by Emma and Eric over the air issue, blaming me for it. Indeed, as someone unable to have children, I felt guilty towards Brandon, and his complaints always made me sad. But if what Emma said was true, he had been going out behind my back. There would be no need to lie about training if it were something innocent. "Emma, does this mean?" I watched Emma's expression. She raised her eyebrows sharply. "Yes. It's unacceptable." We exchanged glances and nodded firmly. Emma was likely thinking the same thing as I was. Brandon was hiding something serious from us all. That meant, "I'll keep an eye on him from now on." "Got it. I'll report to you if I notice anything suspicious." With our opinions aligned, we parted ways. Now, what should I do about him? Thoughts swirled in my head. I had started to think that I needed to gather evidence somehow to find out the truth about Brandon. Should I hire a private investigator, or should I try to find out on my own what Brandon is doing on his days off? 2 weeks had passed while I was thinking about various things. During that time, Brandon kept saying, "I'm going to my parents' home," on his days off, and he often came back late at night. Each time, I contacted Emma to confirm that Brandon wasn't going to the in-laws' house. When I finally thought it was really suspicious and decided to hire a private investigator, I received a phone call. It was a Sunday morning, and Brandon had been away since the previous day, saying he had to stay overnight for training at work. I picked up my mobile phone and looked at the screen, but it was from an unknown number, and I hesitated for a moment. Wondering if Emma had changed her phone number or if it was Eric, whose number I hadn't registered yet, I pressed the call button on my mobile phone. "Hello." I answered the phone cautiously, listening for any clues. I heard someone taking a breath on the other end of the line. "This is the police." The word police. "What?" made me exclaim. What on earth could the police want with me? Feeling suspicious. "Yes, this is she," I replied. The next moment, they said, "Your husband is in critical condition. Please come to the scene immediately." What? I was stunned by the unexpected words from the man who claimed to be a police officer. I wondered who on earth would call me on a Sunday morning and got this kind of news. I felt like I was in a bad dream.
What do you mean by that?
I asked, my mind racing with thoughts about what could have happened to Brandon.
You'll understand when you get here. Just come to Sunset Harbor Apartments as soon as possible.
The police officer quickly gave me the address, which seemed to be an apartment complex. I wrote down the address, still confused. The call ended abruptly, and I couldn't ask half of what I wanted to know. What should I do? I was anxious about going alone. I decided to call some relatives who lived nearby. Fortunately, both Brandon and I were from the same area, so my parents and Emma and Eric responded immediately. Emma even called Brandon's Uncle Robert and Aunt Charlotte. With this many people, we should be able to handle whatever happens. Feeling reassured, we all headed to the scene together.
Do you think he is okay?
I don't know, but we have to go. My mom and the in-laws, who had joined us, all seemed upset. Hearing that his life was in danger, especially Emma and Eric, were visibly agitated. Even though Brandon had been acting strangely lately, I didn't want him to lose his life. Praying for Brandon's safety, we arrived at the address given by the police. It was a typical apartment complex with a security lock at the entrance. I rang the intercom for 312C. Despite it being a police matter, there weren't any police cars outside the apartment, which I found odd. However, the relatives seemed too focused on finding out about Brandon to think about it. Please come in quickly. The police officer who answered the intercom sounded somewhat hurried. When the security door opened, we rushed to 312C. Excuse me. The door to 312C was firmly closed. Normally, in such situations, the police would have the door open and secured, which made me concerned. By this point, everyone except me started to think something was wrong. I nervously reached for the front door. It was unlocked and opened easily. Walking down the short hallway, Emma was the first to open the door to the living room.
This is unbelievable!
Emma's scream echoed. I imagined seeing Brandon in a horrible state and peeked into the living room from behind her.
What?
I couldn't believe my eyes at the unexpected sight. There, sitting naked, was Brandon, and next to him was a young woman. The woman was wrapped in just a towel, and I couldn't help but doubt my own eyes. And standing beside them was the man who had called me. Dressed in a suit, he looked like an ordinary office worker, not a police officer. The man turned to us and spoke. I'm sorry for lying about being the police. I'm Nicholas, the husband of the woman sitting here, Amanda. This is our home.
Lies, wife, husband.
Emma mumbled, looking confused. Meanwhile, Brandon and the woman, Amanda, were blushing furiously.
Can you tell us what happened?
I realized I had been tricked by Nicholas, who had pretended to be the police. However, seeing that Nicholas meant no harm to us, I decided to calmly listen to the facts. Actually, Nicholas began to explain the situation. Recently, Amanda's behavior seemed strange. She would come home very late, even though she only had a part-time job. When I asked for reasons, she would make the same excuses, like saying a night shift worker suddenly called in sick. At first, I just brushed it off, thinking it was normal. But then she started being out even on her days off. And lately, she's only been working her part-time job about twice a week. She used to work 5 days a week. When she told me she cut back because she was tired, I started getting suspicious.
It was really tough on me.
Amanda desperately tried to make excuses, but in this situation, her words sounded hollow. Nicholas continued. Naturally, I began to suspect she was cheating.
I'd ask her things like, "Who did you drink with tonight?" or "How are you connected to your friend's boyfriend?" I was trying to catch her off guard, hoping she'd slip up and reveal something. But she never did. She was careful. So, I changed my strategy. I lied about going on a business trip and set up hidden cameras in the house.
"Isn't recording without consent illegal?"
Brandon shouted. I glared at him. "Who are you to talk? You have nothing to defend yourself with." Seeing his face twist in frustration, Nicholas resumed his story. "Last night, I stayed at a nearby motel. I watched the house through the cameras the whole time. The footage streamed live to my mobile phone. And as you can see, this man came over, and in no time, he and Amanda, well, you get it. I wanted to burst in and catch them in the act, but when I saw them fall asleep naked, I thought I'd wait and make a bigger scene by inviting the man's family over. This morning, while they were still asleep, I came home and caught them. Melissa's contact information was given by this man after a bit of persuasion. Sorry for being so mean." Nicholas spoke calmly, but his actions revealed a desire for revenge. Setting up hidden cameras in his home and summoning me, Brandon's wife, to expose his wife's infidelity showed his determination to retaliate for the humiliation he had endured. After Nicholas finished speaking, Amanda, with tears in her eyes, said,
"You're the worst."
But Nicholas's expression remained unchanged. "You think I'm the worst? Are you insane?" It was as if he was silently challenging her. Perhaps for the young Amanda, Nicholas, being significantly older, was not satisfying. Although Brandon was around the same age, he had a youthful appearance, making it understandable why Amanda might choose him as a lover. I, his wife, analyzed this situation calmly, feeling a bit disgusted with myself.
"Damn it. You all are ganging up on us. It's not fair. Besides, isn't it you and that guy's fault for not satisfying their partners?"
Faced with undeniable evidence of his infidelity, Brandon could only lash out at us. Even though he was being stared down by everyone, I had to acknowledge his defiant spirit. However, I couldn't bring myself to forgive Brandon. I stepped forward. There were so many things I wanted to say to Brandon.
"Who's really being unfair here? You knew I couldn't have children, and yet you blamed me, saying Emma and Eric pressured you to find an heir, and that you needed to make sure you was ready to take over. Wasn't that all a lie?" "What? Pressure? We never said anything like that. Did we, Eric?"
I only wanted to teach you about the job. I never mentioned anything about an heir. Emma and Eric looked puzzled.
"They don't seem like the type to put that kind of pressure on you."
Exactly. Even Charlotte and Robert shook their heads. Brandon looked down, clearly uncomfortable. "Look. As you can see, neither Emma nor Eric have put any pressure on you.
And yet you blamed me and criticized all my cooking and cleaning. I kept wondering why you had to say such things to me. But now I understand. You were verbally abusing me, trying to push me to be the one to bring up divorce, weren't you?"
That's... Brandon's face turned pale and twisted. It seemed I was right. I was utterly astonished. How could he tell such a lie that would be discovered so quickly? I couldn't comprehend it. The thought that he had been infatuated with a younger woman made me feel sick. I hated my past self for being so thrilled about marrying him. I had thought that with him, our conversations would be lively, and we'd have a fun married life. Feeling betrayed, I nodded at Nicholas, who was experiencing the same humiliation.
"Amanda, I'm divorcing you. And you can bet I'll be asking for alimony in court."
Nicholas said this clearly to Amanda.
Wait a minute, why alimony? I was played by this man. He forced his way into my house and pinned me down in bed.
In a final act of desperation, Amanda turned on Brandon, who was slumped beside her. He looked at Amanda, shocked.
Hey, what are you saying? Why am I the only one being blamed? You knew I was married when you approached me at the store. That's a bigger crime. What?
Brandon and Amanda started arguing, both still naked. The low-level blame game left everyone speechless. The hidden camera footage would clearly show that Brandon hadn't forced Amanda into anything. Nicholas and I finally reached our breaking point with their pitiful bickering. Both of you, who are you arguing with?
You're both married, and you cheated. That is the truth. I'm divorcing too. Exactly. Stop fighting each other and apologize to us. Then, get out of this house.
Brandon and Amanda's shoulders shook. Riding on our anger, even Emma and Eric began to criticize Brandon.
Brandon, you're no longer fit to take over our family business. Apologize to Melissa right now.
I don't care about you anymore.
You can pay for your alimony yourself, got it? As relatives, we're ashamed. We won't be lending you any money either.
No way. Brandon looked at Emma, Eric, and me with pleading eyes, as if he had planned to ask them for help with the alimony.
Until you pay what you owe, I'll keep coming back. Be prepared for that,
I said in a calm voice, and finally, Brandon stood up, put on the clothes he had left scattered in the bedroom, and left Nicholas's house. Amanda, left behind, looked at Nicholas and said, "I'm sorry." But Nicholas saw it as mere crocodile tears and threw her clothes at her, tossing her out of the house. Left behind, we all exchanged glances, trying to grasp what had just happened inside deeply.
Melissa, I am deeply sorry for our foolish son.
Emma and Eric apologized sincerely. How could such respectable parents produce a son like Brandon?
It was all his doing. Emma and Eric, you're not to blame.
Even as I said this, Emma and Eric continued to apologize profusely. I divorced Brandon in less than 3 days after that. It turned out Brandon started his affair with Amanda when he found out I couldn't have children. I felt sorry for Brandon in that regard, but that didn't excuse his cheating. I remembered the hurtful words he had thrown at me and demanded a substantial settlement and compensation in the divorce court. Currently, Brandon doesn't have the means to pay the requested amount in full and ended up in debt. If he had taken over the family restaurant, he could have repaid it quickly, but Emma and Eric decided against letting him take over. Apparently, they were fed up with him for cheating and hurting me. Without inheriting the restaurant, Brandon no longer needed to work at the restaurant where he had been training. Despite this, he should have continued working to support himself, but it turned out Brandon had been skipping work to see Amanda. The restaurant owner was furious and fired him. Having lost both his assets and his job, Brandon is now looking for a new job. Brandon, who had thought he would make a living as a chef from a young age until recently, now found himself aimless and in a state of despair. In his mid-30s, he had no interest in a corporate job and managed to get by with part-time work at a diner. However, part-time work alone wasn't nearly enough to pay off his debts. I assumed he was looking for a full-time job while working part-time, but apparently, Brandon had taken up gambling, hoping for a quick turnaround. I thought to myself that he would probably be in debt for the rest of his life. I hope you fall into a self-deprecating lifestyle and suffer from debt hell. I imagined his downfall from a distance, feeling detached. Meanwhile, I decided to start to find a new man again. I had initially thought I would stay single for a while, but Emma and Eric encouraged me to find a better man. At the dating agency,
I made sure to note in my profile that I was unable to have children. Recently, a man reached out to me, saying he didn't mind not having children and just wanted to get to know me better. He seemed very sincere and calm. I felt a glimmer of hope, thinking that maybe I could start over with him.
I can't stand it anymore. Why does this quiet neighborhood smell so much like the countryside?
After my son Dylan and my grandson Oliver left to pick up the food they ordered, Dylan's wife Charlotte said this with a look of disgust on her face. Feeling uncomfortable, I immediately got up from the sofa. Maybe I should take a walk around the neighborhood until Dylan and Oliver get back? Then Charlotte laughed loudly.
If you don't want to breathe the same air as me, feel free to leave this house right now. Of course not. I'm not planning to go back home. Dylan and Oliver kindly invited me for dinner, after all.
Charlotte glared at me with an angry look.
You dirty woman, no food for you. And don't use the shower or the toilet. You're an adult, figure it out yourself.
Then Charlotte brought her nose close to my body and pretended to smell me blatantly.
Anyway, eating in the same space as a dirty woman like you makes me feel sick, and you'll dirty the shower and toilet, so definitely don't use them. This is not a request, but an order to leave.
At that moment, Dylan and Oliver came back home with smiles on their faces. The fragrant smell from the table stimulated my hungry stomach, but I deliberately didn't touch the food. Charlotte was smiling triumphantly as if she found something amusing. The moment I saw her face, I reached the limit of my patience. I stood up from my chair right there.
Excuse me for a moment.
Dylan and Oliver looked surprised.
Mom, what's wrong?
Yeah, Grandma, sit down and eat with us. They said kind words to me, but I smiled back and said,
I need to use the restroom, so I'll go to a neighbor's house.
My name is Ava, a 65-year-old housewife. Since my husband passed away a few years ago, I've been enjoying a quiet life alone in the countryside. I have a son named Dylan, but he left our hometown to attend college. He is now married and has a 15-year-old child named Oliver. Dylan works at a big company and is always busy, so he rarely visits, but he calls me regularly to check on me. How are you? Anything new happening? Thanks to that, I never felt lonely. Dylan and Oliver never fail to send me gifts on my birthday every year. However, Charlotte doesn't seem to like me at all and openly avoids contact with me. This started when Dylan first brought Charlotte to our home before their marriage. At first, Charlotte played the modest wife, but as soon as we were alone, her attitude changed drastically.
There are so many bugs here, and this place smells so earthy. I don't want to stay long. I'm sorry, it's not as lively as the city you're used to. It must be boring.
Then she gave me a sinister smile.
I heard that in the countryside, mothers-in-law have a lot of authority, but it's not like that in the city. Don't do old-fashioned things like interfering in a couple's relationship.
She probably intended to warn me even before the marriage. Of course, I never intended to interfere between Dylan and Charlotte, and I also wanted to avoid the old-fashioned mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts as much as possible.
I don't think what you're worried about will happen.
I tried to calmly reason with Charlotte.
It's only natural. In the city, if people heard that a son was still in touch with his mom, they'd laugh at him and think he was ridiculous.
Seeing her true nature made my skin crawl. However, Dylan seemed completely unaware of her true colors, and even after getting married, he continued to call me. Occasionally, though rarely, I would receive calls from Charlotte, but it was never because she acknowledged my existence.
Ava, I've told you multiple times, please stop interfering with our family. We're very annoyed by your persistent calls. Charlotte, if you feel that way, I apologize. But I have never once called Dylan. He's the one who always calls me. He is such a mama's boy. As long as his salary is decent and the household expenses are covered, I don't have any complaints. Then Charlotte, in a voice clear enough for me to hear, said, "If you're giving us money, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, please keep your opinions to yourself." Okay, I understood. I felt sad, but since Dylan continued to call me regularly, my gloom didn't last long. Furthermore, even when Charlotte said unreasonable things to me, I never conveyed those facts to him. I wanted to avoid causing a rift in a couple with sensitive children at any cost, and I also wanted to believe that even if Charlotte disliked me, she didn't hate him. Oliver, unlike Charlotte, has always been fond of me since he was a child up to now at 15 years old. During one holiday, Oliver once came to visit me alone. "If you have a cell phone, we can call each other anytime." He even went with me to a nearby store to buy a cell phone. Today's cell phones are amazing. You can make video calls without spending any money. Saying this, he patiently taught me how to use the cell phone. I'll write down the necessary steps, but if there's still something you don't understand, feel free to ask me anytime. I have school on weekdays, but I'm free on weekends. Oliver, much like Dylan, grew up to be a very straightforward and kind boy. Oliver, you're so sweet. Thank you always. But once you start high school, you'll be even busier. When will we see each other next? On the day Oliver was leaving, I finally teared up and said, "Oh, don't cry. With a cell phone, we can always stay connected through video calls." Saying this, Oliver hugged me. "Grandma, you should come over to our place sometimes. Dad and Mom will welcome you." Even if Dylan would, Charlotte probably wouldn't welcome me. Nonetheless, I was genuinely happy about his concern for me. Since then, every weekend, I received video calls from Oliver on my cell phone. "Grandma, guess what? I was chosen as a regular in the basketball team's official games." "That's great. Oliver, you're amazing at both studies and sports." Being able to stay in touch with Oliver whenever I wanted was my source of joy. However, that joy was short-lived. One day, I received a video call from Oliver. "Grandma, how are you?" His voice lacked its usual energy and enthusiasm. It seemed like he was whispering to avoid drawing attention, and it was very dark around him, probably because there were no lights on. "Oliver, where are you calling from?" He glanced around and then said, "I'm outside the front door. If I call from inside, Mom will get mad at me." He stuck out his tongue and laughed. According to him, Charlotte never liked the fact that he was video calling me. "If you video call that person again, I'll take your mobile phone away." That's what she had warned him. "What is she thinking?" I said, trying to ensure that Oliver wouldn't get his mobile phone taken away. "Don't push yourself too hard. Let's end this before it gets too long. Next time, call me when your mom isn't around." "Yeah, I'll contact you when I get the chance." Just as he promised, Oliver called me via video the next afternoon. He was out with friends from school, and unlike the previous day, he didn't have to whisper. Even at 15, Oliver still loves his grandma. "Shut up, go away." His friends laughed at him, but he seemed to enjoy our conversation. However, I felt that his tone was still somewhat gloomy. "Mom's not around right now, right? Why do you sound down? Did something happen?" "Well, it's about Mom." Oliver started speaking hesitantly. "When Dad is away for work, a strange man visits Mom. Sometimes she leaves with him in his car. Mom wears different makeup and clothes then. She greets him with a bright smile I've never seen her show to me or Dad." At 15, Oliver seemed to sense something was wrong. Though he didn't say it explicitly,
He seemed to suspect a rift might be forming between his parents.
But if I try to ask Mom about it, she gets really moody and doesn't cook dinner. It scares me.
I see. But it might just be your imagination. Don't worry too much about it. Come on, smile. You look cutest when you're smiling. Oliver blushed.
Stop it, it's embarrassing.
And said, one day, I got a call from Dylan after a long time. Do you want to come over this weekend and have some good food with us?
What? What did you just say?
For a moment, I thought I had misheard. Hearing my voice, Dylan laughed and said, it's lonely and boring eating alone all the time, right? So, sometimes come over and have dinner with the family. I hesitated and said,
but, are you sure it's okay?
Oliver wants you to come. He got to the top 8 in his last regional basketball tournament. We're celebrating that too.
Oliver invited me? In that case, I'll gladly accept.
That day, Dylan picked me up at the station after finishing work. Did Charlotte say anything about me coming today? I asked him while we were waiting at a traffic light. No, she didn't say anything in particular. But why are you worried about that? He replied with a gentle smile, turning the question back to me.
No, it's nothing.
I gave a vague response and awkwardly smiled. It seemed that he was completely unaware of her true nature. When we arrived at the house, just as I got out of the car, the front door opened, and Oliver came rushing out.
Grandma, I'm so glad you came. I've missed you.
When I handed him the local specialty sweets I had brought, he beamed.
Awesome, we'll have them together later.
Oliver took my hand and led me inside the house. As soon as we stepped in, I felt a strange sense of quietness. Where's Mom? Is she not home?
She's here, sort of.
Oliver replied hesitantly, pointing towards the living room. With a sense of foreboding, I slowly walked into the living room. Welcome. Charlotte greeted me lazily from the couch, not even bothering to turn her head. Her voice was robotic, making my spirits sink. As I stood there in shock, Oliver pulled my hand. What are you doing? Sit here. He directed me to the couch.
Mom, stop lying there. Grandma needs a place to sit.
Reluctantly, Charlotte moved at Oliver's urging. After using the bathroom, Dylan appeared in the living room. Oliver, shall we go pick up the pizza and appetizers we ordered?
Yeah, okay.
Oliver looked worriedly between me and Charlotte.
Go ahead,
I said with a reassuring smile. All right, I'll be back. Oliver followed Dylan out of the house. As soon as they were out the door, Charlotte predictably started. Ugh, I can't stand this. Why does this quiet neighborhood have to smell so rustic? She gave me a displeased look. Unable to bear it any longer, I stood up from the couch.
Maybe I'll go for a walk around the neighborhood until Dylan and Oliver get back.
Her eyes narrowed.
What? An old woman like you from the countryside will just get lost and be a real nuisance. Well, that's true. Or do you just not want to be with me, Ava? Do you want to get out of here? It's not that, but I think you are the one who's uncomfortable with me being here.
Instead of responding, Charlotte laughed loudly. If you don't want to breathe the same air as me, you're welcome to leave right now. When Dylan and Oliver get back, I'll just tell them you had an urgent matter.
No way, I'm not leaving. Oliver was really looking forward to today.
Mentioning Oliver's name seemed to infuriate her even more. She glared at me with a furious expression. You dirty old woman, you won't get any food. No shower, no bathroom. You're an adult, figure it out yourself. She clapped her hands and started laughing.
Charlotte, I knew you didn't like me, but I never thought it was this bad.
My heart felt more sadness than anger.
Why do you hate me so much, Charlotte? If there's a reason, please tell me.
Charlotte frowned deeply.
There's no reason. I just never liked you from the beginning. That's all there is to it. I married Dylan because he's financially stable. I never once recognized you as family.
Then, Charlotte leaned in close to me, making a show of sniffing the air around me with exaggerated disgust.
Listen, I can't stand being in the same space as you. It makes me sick to my stomach. You're filthy. Don't use the shower or the toilet. This isn't a request, it's an eviction notice.
At that moment, Dylan and Oliver came home, both smiling.
Hey, it's great the roads weren't busy for a weekend.
Dylan said this as he laid out the freshly bought pizza and appetizers on the table. Charlotte set out Mom's plate. Charlotte, looking annoyed. Okay. Reluctantly complied. The savory smell filled the dining room, and my stomach growled with hunger, but I deliberately refrained from touching the food.
What's wrong? Are you feeling okay?
Dylan, unaware of the situation, asked with genuine concern.
Grandma, this pizza is really good.
Oliver tried to cheer me up while glancing at Charlotte. Charlotte, for some reason, had a triumphant smirk on her face. Seeing her expression, I reached my breaking point. Without a word, I stood up from my chair.
Excuse me for a moment.
Dylan and Oliver looked surprised.
Mom, what's wrong? Yeah, Grandma, sit down and eat with us.
They both offered kind words, but I just smiled and said,
I need to use the restroom. I'll be back soon.
I walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Dylan.
What do you mean? Why isn't Mom using our bathroom?
And Oliver questioning Charlotte. Charlotte, now panicking, stood up.
What's going on? Ava, wait. Where are you going?
She tried to follow me, but I shut the door behind me and stepped into the dark, quiet neighborhood. From inside, I heard Oliver shout.
Grandma left her bag, and her phone is inside. She didn't take her wallet either. What's going on?
Even clueless Dylan was starting to sense something was wrong, clearly flustered. Looking around, I saw lights on in every house, indicating people were home. I rang the doorbell of the house next door, labeled Williams.
Hello? Sorry to bother you so late.
I called out, hoping for a response. A middle-aged woman's voice answered from inside.
What's the matter? I live next door. I know it's highly inappropriate to ask a stranger this, but...
I took a humble tone, raising my voice enough for the nearby houses to hear.
May I use your toilet? What? Toilet?
Mrs. Williams sounded surprised. After a brief pause, she asked,
Is your bathroom broken? Well, it's quite embarrassing, but my daughter-in-law has forbidden me from using it.
I explained the situation loudly enough for the neighbors to hear, articulating clearly.
Oh my, that's...
She seemed unsure how to respond, clearly baffled by the situation. If I were in her shoes, I might have reacted the same way. Seeing the neighbors poking their heads out from their doorways to see what was going on, I continued.
And if possible, I would like to use your shower as well. Oh my, that's quite serious. If you don't mind, please feel free to use our shower. It's not very large, but... Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
I expressed my gratitude repeatedly. Mrs. Williams came out of the house directly and opened the gate for me.
Please, come in and tell me more about it. I'm here to help.
She showed a serious intent to listen to my story. Other neighbors also gathered in front of Mrs. Williams' house, and soon the street was filled with people. Among the crowd, I spotted Charlotte, but I ignored her and continued. Thank you. My son's wife has even forbidden me from eating. I further accused Charlotte of her cruelty. Seeing this, another neighbor spoke up. I'm Smith, who lives across the street. Here, please have this if you like. Offering me some food. Thank you so much for going out of your way. Moved by the overwhelming kindness of the neighbors, I began to tear up. Is that true? What a terrible wife. Isn't that the house? The wife is Charlotte, right? I really dislike that wife. Even when we meet on the street, she doesn't return my greetings and even tries to avoid eye contact. Apparently, she had quite a bad reputation among the neighbors, and their accumulated dissatisfaction erupted into a full-blown gossip session about her. One of the neighbors went further. I saw something the other day. Starting with an enticing prelude. She seems to be inviting another man over when her husband is away. I saw her smiling and hugging another man. I know that. I've seen it several times too. You often see a black car parked in front of their house recently, don't you? Is that true? Dylan, his face filled with anger, cut into the buzzing conversation among the neighbors. Oliver was standing next to him. Is it true that my wife has been bringing another man into our house? He asked the neighbors again. They gave awkward smiles, but seeing Charlotte standing silently with her head down. So, what these people are saying is true. Honey, this is, Charlotte desperately tried to come up with an excuse, but it seemed she couldn't think of a good one. Unable to give a clear answer, Dylan's anger intensified. So the harassment towards Mom is true too. What the hell are you thinking? Have you been tormenting her all this time behind my back? Well, it's because she keeps nagging us about our marriage. I have never done that. Rather, it's you who has been trying to keep me away from Dylan, isn't it? Infuriated by Charlotte's constant blaming, I retorted in a strong tone. I won't let you have your way anymore. As I sternly declared, Charlotte, far from reflecting, became even more furious. That's all lies. I don't know anything about it. The car parked in front of our house recently is probably just some door-to-door salesman, right? It's so annoying. Everyone around here is just jealous because I'm the youngest and prettiest. So they spread baseless rumors that I'm bringing other men into our home to ruin our family. The person is the owner of the cafe in the next town over. One of the neighbors shouted. Hey, don't say unnecessary things. Lucas has nothing to do with this. Caught off guard by the sudden exposure of the person's identity, Charlotte unintentionally mentioned the name Lucas. Lucas? So, his name is Lucas? Dylan and the neighbors around didn't miss this slip. So what? That cafe just happens to be my favorite spot. It's not strange to know the owner's name, right? Or do you have proof that I'm having an affair with him? Charlotte tried to deny it, but Oliver, who had been quietly watching the commotion, spoke up. I've seen it many times. Mom getting into that Lucas guy's car. Her expression was different than when she looks at me and Dad. She seemed excited. He testified calmly with a mature tone. Oliver, what are you saying? You are the most important person to me. Charlotte tried to hug Oliver, but he pushed her away. I can't trust you anymore, Mom. I'm disappointed that you would do such terrible things to Grandma. He pushed Charlotte away with a strong tone. Oliver, you've known all along about her and that guy's relationship, haven't you? You've been suffering, right? Oliver nodded and continued. I wasn't sure. I just thought maybe.
but I didn't want to hurt Grandma or Dad, so I kept quiet. I hugged Oliver tightly, feeling his kind heart that always thought of me and Dylan over himself. That owner was good-looking, though. I'm really disappointed by this whole situation. I'm not going to that cafe anymore. I've heard he brings in other young women too. The rumors quickly spread, and regular customers began to leave Lucas's cafe one after another. I've never been to that cafe myself, but Dylan later told me that it seemed to be empty now. After that, Dylan and Charlotte officially got divorced. Charlotte and Lucas ended up paying a large amount of compensation and settlement money in the divorce trial for causing emotional distress to Dylan and Oliver. I don't need Mom anymore. I'll be happy as long as I have Dad and Grandma. Saying this, Oliver chose Dylan as his guardian himself. Wait a minute. I married you when I was young. I don't have any qualifications or job. How am I supposed to live now if we get divorced? You're just a stranger to us now. You should find your own way to live. Dylan coldly pushed her away, leaving her to live alone in loneliness and hardship. You have Lucas, don't you? Being with him makes you happier, doesn't it? I said with a hint of sarcasm. Then Charlotte, her eyes bloodshot, responded. Don't remind me of that. When I asked him about getting married, he said he was just playing around from the start, and then he disappeared right after. He's such a terrible jerk. Oh dear, that sounds tough. I couldn't help but laugh at her attitude, as she only blamed the guy. At the sensitive age of 15, Oliver had faced various troubles at home. Despite that, he used his intelligence as a weapon and successfully got into his first choice high school. Congratulations on your acceptance, Oliver. This time, let's celebrate big. I'll take you to a nice restaurant. Then Oliver, over a video call, said, Thank you. But can I ask for one thing? He had never once asked me for anything before. What is it? If you want something, I'll buy it for you anytime. I want to eat Grandma's home-cooked food, Oliver said, his eyes sparkling. Of course. I'll come over this weekend, then. Yay! I'll be waiting. With the barrier of Charlotte removed, I could now visit Dylan and Oliver's house without any reservations. However, a new worry emerged for me. What should I cook for him? It was a delightful and exciting problem that I couldn't stop thinking about.